All right, welcome to another episode of Battleground Chats. Today, I'm very pleased to have Helen Lipscombe on our episode live from BCI World Hybrid in London. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here and excited to join your podcast.
Thank you. So now we met a few months ago. Ellie introduced us around training. So we're developing some training for business continuity and crisis management. But how did you get into it? Where did your resilience journey start?
So I am a geologist originally.
Oh, wow.
So my journey into resilience was through oil rigs. My first job after university was I went to work on an oil rig.
No way.
Flew out to the North Sea in a helicopter.
Oh my God. And how long were you on the rig for?
I was on there. Every trip was like a 2 week on, 2 week off. I worked there for about a year.
Okay. How was that?
I didn't enjoy it, I'll be honest. It was very quickly not my long-term
I'm going to sound really weird. Is it a blokey scene?
It's a very blokey scene.
Yeah.
Which was good in some ways because I got a room to myself.
Right.
But it was a very male-oriented. Not that resilience wasn't actually at that point, but that's a different
true.
point. And yeah, 9/11 happened around that time as well. And I think that for the UK resilience community made a big shift in, it was no longer about civil defence, it was about how do we protect organisations, how do we be prepared, and it all kind of came together. I was looking to actually, what could I do that had a little bit of geology, because my biggest reason for doing geology was volcanoes, earthquakes, really like the whole US FEMA setup. So that's a lot of why I went into that. Plus I love rocks.
So after the oil rigs, you moved straight into that?
Yeah, exactly. After the oil rigs, I moved straight into emergency planning and resilience. And that was over 20 years ago.
But how did you make that shift? Because geology on an oil rig to emergency planning and resilience is not an obvious step.
It's not an obvious step, but I think I realised, one, I wasn't going to spend my life on oil rigs, and two, it kind of gave me the opportunity to think about what did I want to do. And I got connected to the local emergency planning team in where I grew up. And they then gave me connections. They told me about this whole industry that was available. They told me about the fact that, you know, this was something you could do for a career. And that there were opportunities. And he connected me through to where I got my first job in resilience. He got me into the right people, and it kind of all went from there.
Which is half the battle.
And I think the bit that I would say for me, it's sort of, as soon as I started doing it, I realised it's what I was supposed to be doing. But it was a bit of it was fluke. It was opportunity. And it was meeting the right person at the right time.
Which is half the battle.
And that is half the battle, because again, I don't think a lot of us coming into this industry would go, oh, I grew up wanting to be a resilience planner. This was what I've always thought about, because it is maybe more now what people talk about, but certainly, you know, again, 20 years ago, it wasn't what people talked about. It wasn't an opportunity, it wasn't a role you could do. Universities weren't geared towards that. You kind of did something that either you were interested in or that you thought might be something you could do for life.
Exactly.
And
and do you use any of your geology in your resilience work?
Probably for scenarios.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yes, a little bit of that. It's kind of come into play when I've had to deal with ash crises. So I worked in aviation. Volcanoes. But it's more tangential. I would say. It's not something I go back to and go, oh yeah, well we did different types of metamorphic rocks. There isn't really a real connection there.
But that's one fascinating, because as soon as you can talk about the scenario with authority, it makes a huge difference.
It does. I think that's what I found, and I think just the structure and the kind of discipline of doing a science kind of has helped me. It kind of gave me that way of thinking about the analytical mind. That's what I definitely would say I use now more than anything else. If I think about what's the transferable bit, the subject itself, no, because other than a little bit of scenarios, it's not something we do. But definitely the way you structure things, the way you think about it, that's the bit that's definitely.
And what's interesting is I've had on this podcast a few ex-engineers who are now in resilience, and they say the same thing, that way of thinking has helped them, not necessarily the engineering, but their way of thinking, the structured approach to thought. And that's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely when I think about how I practice resilience now. It is taking that structured approach. The reason why it feels like it's what I've always been meant to do is because it feels logical.
Yes.
It feels common sense. I know it's my logic and my common sense, and part of the fun of doing the job, again, is we're trying to educate people on what feels logical and common sense to us.
Yeah.
But I love that as well. I love the education. I love the engaging people.
Yes.
And getting them to see the world as I get to see the world, and getting them to think in a structured, formatted kind of way. Yeah. Because that's what we're trying to build with resilience. It's kind of, you need to have the structure to be able to break the structure. You want people to be free and able to think differently, but you need some guidance, you need some guardrails to work within, to then be able to go, where do we apply flexibility, where do we apply adaptability, and how do we make this actually work?
Yeah, but you want them to think, right? There was a time where a lot of business continuity practitioners were trying to almost remove that and go, just follow the plan, just follow the plan, right? And here's a plan it's a few hundred pages long, but we I don't want you to think, just follow it, which is dangerous.
Really dangerous. And my focus when I'm talking to clients and when I'm doing the work is mindset and culture.
Yeah,
because that to me drives the right behaviours, it drives the right attitudes, and that, again, back to, it's not about following the plan.
No.
The plan is an important part of the process, yet I would almost say
the plan's a tool.
The plan is a tool, the plan is the crutch, the plan is the thing that people go, I feel better because we have a plan. Yeah. But that isn't how they're going to respond. How they're going to respond is they're going to manage and adjust and adapt, and that is about being able to do that, feeling safe to do that, and feeling, that's one of the things I've heard a couple of times already here today, is that, having that right mindset, that right culture, that you feel safe to go, you know what, we shouldn't just be following the rules. We shouldn't just be following the plan. The plan was written with a number of assumptions, and actually now the events happen, all of the assumptions have blown us out the water. It's not what we thought it was going to be, because it never is what we think it's going to be.
Absolutely.
And we have to be able to be
that's why I'm a massive advocate of event neutral planning. Right? Don't write a plan for scenarios. Write a plan almost for outcomes, right? And a guide. It's a tool.
It's a guide, it's a tool, and it should be outcome focused. It can be looking at the sort of, the way, again, I look at it is there are certain resources that you need. So you need people, you need locations, you need suppliers, you need technology. That's how businesses are run. Businesses are run with, that's the four, if you sit down and look at any organisation, those are the pillars of an organisation. And any one of those can disappear.
Correct.
So what's your plan if they disappear?
Correct. And so I've coined a phrase for that called prize. Keep your eye on the prize. People, reputation, IT infrastructure, sites, and external parties. Vendors.
Yes.
So
that's exactly,
I know.
That's exactly the structure.
And this was unplanned, I know. Great minds think alike. But I came up with prize because of exactly what you said. I needed something for people to get their head around, that you don't need to plan for every scenario. Plan for when operations are impacted. Which part of your operations, if you keep your eye on the prize, then you can think accordingly.
That's a really good way of thinking. I really like that.
Thank you. You can copyright Craig Goldberg 2025.
But I think you must have seen as well, what I think people do end up doing, particularly when you're dealing with a business, is they come back to, well, what's happened?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think it's being able to kind of, shift that mindset. So it doesn't matter what happened, what haven't you got?
Exactly.
What have you lost? And it's not,
again, everything, but
what tools do I need to have? What would you do if you haven't got the right people, if you haven't got enough people? What would you do if you can't work in your normal location? What would you do if that supplier that you're telling me is critical is not available?
Exactly.
And that's the important thing to be thinking about.
I agree. One of the worst plans I saw was, I think it was 150 pages, right? Because they tried to plan for like small fire, medium fire, large fire, fire on level 2, fire on level 5. Right? It's not worth it. The other terrible thing I saw was a guide for how to measure if it's a crisis based on maths. So if if this happens, it's a 1. If this happens, it's well, oh no, it only hits a 12. Fast activated crisis, it's a 13 plus. We can't call it crisis. Yeah.
There's no hard and fast around this.
No.
That's almost so human. Because we want structure again. This is what we are dealing with when we're talking to people.
Yeah.
This question comes up all the time. When does it become big enough for me to tell somebody? And there isn't, that it always feels like the cop-out answer. There isn't really a rule around that. I'm sorry, I can't give you a hard line because it's not a hard line.
Yeah.
There's a bit of tell people sooner rather than later.
And you can base it on risk appetite, on your risks, and guide. Yeah. At the end of the day, if in doubt, escalate. That's what I say.
Yeah. And it's just, there isn't a maths.
No.
There's there's nothing behind that that's going to give you the answer.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit of hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
And that scares people. Because people don't like to work in that way. People don't like to. They want tell me.
But our job is to take them out of that comfort zone and show them that it's okay to think. So how are you doing that now? What's your business now that you're doing?
So the business now is I am working with clients at different points in their resilience cycle. So sometimes I will be working them where they've not got anything in place. So we assess what do you need, where do we go from, do that, put a plan in place.
Yes.
I help write plans.
Yep.
So actually help them to document what they would do in the event of a disruption.
Yep.
And then I help them to test them at different phases. So it's a whole suite of approaches that I do.
Yep.
Very much people focused.
Yes.
So my USP is I look at it from the people side and how do you make this work in your organization? Again, there is a methodology we all follow.
Yes.
But the methodology only works and can only get followed up by organizations if they buy into it.
Yes.
And that's where I do a lot of my time and effort is spent on the kind of coaching and engaging side with an organization.
Giving the teams, the people, the confidence and the tools they need.
Yes. And helping them to deal with uncertainty. So that's what we are actually dealing with all the time. And it's being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yes.
Which is, again, a bit of mindset and culture.
I like that saying, comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So how do you create that? What's some tips and tricks?
So it's usually around providing different scenarios and getting people kind of almost pushing them into the uncomfortable to get them to come out of that to feel like actually it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. We have got the right tools and we have got the right systems in place, and coaching them. So actually providing more hands-on, one-to-one coaching around what are the skill sets you need, how to build a more resilient mindset, which kind of starts to go into more personal resilience and how do you actually build people up that they are capable of doing.
But I think all exercising should do that, shouldn't it, really? If you exercise well, you arm people with what they need and they gain from it personally.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in that you've got to take people out of the comfort zone, but recognise for them where they're going to break. You don't want to break them. You want them to learn. You want them to come out going, that was a positive learning experience. As I say, you want them wanting more.
Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right on that. We don't want people to come away from any exercises terrified. I was speaking to someone last week and they're kind of going to throw in a leadership team for an exercise. And it's a live exercise, but they're not telling them that. They're telling them it's tabletop. And my heart sinks when you know the fact that you're going to lose the audience. You're going to lose a really important opportunity to engage people, to educate people, and to get them on side. I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about the role of leadership in driving the right behaviours, attitudes around this topic. And you embarrass them, they're not going to come. They're not going to come to exercise. They're not going to engage with this,
and they're not going to grow.
They're not going to grow, and they're not going to provide that positive feedback and engagement going forward. Again, what you want them to do is come out of that session and go, that was great. I feel better. I feel more prepared. And everyone else in the organisation should go through that.
Yeah.
It's like you almost want to encourage the sheep dip of we should all go through this at all levels of the organisation because that builds the culture, it builds resilience, and it means we're better prepared.
Exactly.
Because everyone has experienced that. But if you embarrass them,
that's dangerous. I think that's the worst. I often get brought in to fix previous exercises where they don't want more. So, hey, can you come in and bring your fun learning environment in and show them that it can be done.
How it can be possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's I really like that as well, because that to me is a big part of all of this work. And I do a lot of training, and I talk to a lot of people that do our jobs.
Yes.
And I'm very much standing in front of them, and I'm like bubbling with the enthusiasm because I love this job. Yeah. And I think it's important. It's infectious. But if we don't love it, no one else will.
100%.
And it's that bit of we have to be our own kind of shining beacon of this is an important topic that you should be doing some work around. And if we have to start that message, we have to start the engagement. And if we're not positive and excited,
then how are they going to be? I love it. Helen, it's been a fascinating chat at BCI. Thank you so much for being on Battleground Chats.
Thank you very much. Loved it.